Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a release that chamber music fanciers have been waiting for quite a while. It is the Beethoven Complete Piano Trios with the Sook Trio on Supraphon. This is as perfect a set of Beethoven piano trios as you're ever going to hear. I mean, everybody does them. They get recorded forever. And there are a million different ones, and a lot of them are very good. There's some fantastic, regularly constituted piano trios that do them. Trio Wanderer and the fabulous Beaux-Arts Trio, which did them at least 2 or 3 times. And they're these standard piano trio works, like most things by Beethoven are. The fact of the matter is Beethoven wrote most of them early in his career. That's why I think they don't have quite the reputation of his string quartets. Half of them were written before about 1800, when he was still developing his style. But the reason he wrote piano trios is because neither Haydn nor Mozart were known for them. Mozart wrote 6 glorious piano trios, which of course I'm going to talk about because they are wonderful works. Haydn's piano trios were barely known, and they're not piano trios in the modern sense. That is, for 3 independent type instruments. They're actually accompanied piano sonatas with cello on the bass line and violin assisting with the melodic line, and they are splendid works musically, but they don't have the same kind of contrapuntal independence that we have come to expect in modern piano trios. So Beethoven's were effectively the first major piano trios that any composer devoted time to. And that's why he did it, because he had the field basically to himself. His Opus 1, it doesn't mean the first thing he wrote, but the first thing that got published, and the publisher gave an opus number to, were his 3 piano trios. Or was his 3 piano, yes, his Opus 1 was his 3 piano trios. And they are extraordinarily fine works. They are really his best early pieces in any format, I think. Even better than the early piano sonatas, or at least some of the early piano sonatas. I just love them. They're fantastic works. And the only reason they aren't quite as famous, aside from the fact that a lot of them are early, is that only one of them can reasonably be called somewhat middle period, and that's the Archduke. The Archduke Trio, which was written in 1811, or late middle period, I shouldn't say, because the Opus 70 trios are substantially middle period also. But the Archduke was written in about 1811, 1812, and that was the last of them. There are no late period Beethoven piano trios. So they while incredibly popular among piano trios, and of course the Archduke is the most popular of all of them, because it was probably the last one, they've never quite gotten the attention of some of his other major chamber works. And it's a shame, because they are glorious, absolutely glorious. And no performance is more glorious than this one. It was originally recorded, I think, what was it, 84, 85? Let me see what the dates are here. Hang on one second. Yeah, 83, 84. They were recorded in Prague in conjunction with Nippon Columbia. And they were issued on Denon. Denon, remember Denon? I mean, I have the Denon issues. It's separate discs on Denon. They were one of the early digital extravaganzas. I mean, one of the great releases that came out of the early digital era. They sounded glorious, and then they kind of disappeared. They're still available, I believe, on Denon in Japan, and you can probably still get them here, and they're very expensive. And so it's wonderful that Supraphon has finally released, these are the digital versions, on their own label, on 4 discs in a convenient box, attractively priced. I mean, you just can't do better. You absolutely can't. And I'm going to show you with some samples, because thank God I have permission from Supraphon to play them. And these Sook Trio discs, all the Dvorak trios and some of the other things they did, are so fine. I mean, these Czech chamber ensembles were among the finest in the world, and they should be in print forever. And I have to say, Supraphon does a classy job of reissuing this stuff, because first of all, you get a sturdy box that's not going to fall apart, and you get quite substantial booklet notes with all of the works plainly identified and dated and cleanly documented. It's quite wonderful. And the discs themselves are packaged in these really nice plastic slip covers that protect them well. I mean, they treat this like the class product it really is and ought to be. And I just think that's wonderful. They're old school Supraphon, and I hope they stay that way. I just hope they stay that way because they still understand how to treat this stuff like the important legacy that it really is. And this is a physical product worth collecting and owning and petting and stroking and getting to know, and really put it under your pillow at night. It'll survive probably, depending on how restless a sleeper you are. I mean, it's really, really, really quality product. And it's such a rare thing these days. Anyway, let's play some samples. Among the early trios, the most famous is the trio in C minor. This is the Opus 1, number 3. It's in C minor. It is a turbulent, fabulous piece. And C minor, of course, was Beethoven's personal minor key. It's the key of the Fifth Symphony and the Pathetique Sonata and the Third Piano Concerto and all of those pieces that express that kind of Beethovenian storm and stress and turbulence and striving, and it's amazing. And one of the coolest moments in the C minor trio, which has many, it's a big 4-movement work too, by the way. A lot of these trios only have 3 movements, but these are big, big pieces, is the ending, the coda of the finale, because the piece ends quietly after a tremendous amount of storm and stress, but in the most wonderful, wonderful feeling of uneasy calm, achieved only at the very end, and with a certain, I don't know what the word is, insouciance perhaps in the piano with its rippling runs at the top. It's just marvelous. Let's listen to the coda of the C minor piano trio, the finale. It's just it'll give you such a great sense of how much invention Beethoven packed into these pieces, and emotional range too. Just a tremendous range of expression. It was Beethoven broadening the range of what music up to that point can do, and particularly chamber music. Here it is. And wasn't that gorgeously played? Fantastically played. The balances are so beautiful. I mean, the members of the Suk Trio for these performances were Josef Hala, piano, Josef Suk, violin, and they're all Josef Chuchro, who was the cellist. Chuchro is the way we do it because it's CH, it's easier to pronounce, but I think in Czech it was Chuchro. And boy, oh boy, are they great. They are just great. Perfect partners. Amazing. Now, the next most famous trio, there are 11. Let's be clear. There are 11 trio works, not counting the trio arrangement of the Second Symphony. But there are 11. There are sort of seven published important trios. 3 of them are in Opus 1. Then there was a Singleton Trio, which is Opus 11 from 1798. And then there's 2 trios in Opus 70. And then there's the Archduke, which is Opus 97. Now, there is a trio number 8, which is actually very, very early. It's from 1790. It's in E-flat major. An unusual work, actually, in that it has no slow movement. It has 3 movements with a scherzo in the middle and 2 moderately quick movements on either side. Very unusual and experimental and somewhat immature piece. And then there are 2 sets of variations, including the famous Kakadu variations, based on a song that I am the tailor Kakadu, ich bin der Schneider Kakadu, or something like that. It's like something like that. And then there is a single movement in Allegretto in B-flat major, which he wrote in 1812. That is the essential Beethoven trio repertoire. And the next most famous one after the C minor trio is the Ghost Trio, which is Opus 70. Opus 70, number 2, I believe. Let me make sure I have it right, because whenever I do these things off the top of my head, now that I've hit 60, you don't know what's going to pop out. I'm an old man now. Opus 70, number 1. There we go. I knew I would get it wrong. I always mix the 2 of them up. The Ghost Trio is fabulous. It has 3 movements, and the Ghost movement is the middle movement. And it really is creepy. I mean, it's a spooky movement. It's marked very slowly and expressively by Beethoven. It's a largo. And he indulges in a lot of creepy rumblings in the bottom of the piano and strange melodic fragment bits. And the actual title Ghost was, of course, not given by Beethoven. It was given by Czerny, naturally, or someone else. I think it was Czerny. And because he said that the middle movement reminded him of, the ghost scene in Macbeth, Banquo's ghost or something like that. But I don't find it ghost-like particularly, but it is spooky. It is creepy. Here is the end of the slow movement of the Ghost Trio with its ghostly rumblings in the bottom of the piano. It's very evocative music. But one of the things I think you'll notice here is that in these trios, Beethoven is incredibly inventive when it comes to sonority and texture. I mean, you wouldn't think, a piano, a violin, and a cello could do very much in terms of timbre, in terms of the sheer sound of the instruments and what you could do with them in combination. But Beethoven is very eager to explore all of the coloristic possibilities of the medium. And for me, the Ghost Trio is most fun at the end of the finale, which is funny. It's one of the funniest things Beethoven ever wrote. And it just is so typical of the classical music world that the trio gets its name from the ghost part and not from the funny part at the end, where you have the piano and the violin playing pizzicato offbeats. And it's just a wonderful little syncopated moment of pure jollity and humor. Knee-slapping humor. It's wonderful. So I'm going to play with the end of the Ghost Trio too, because I just want to make the point that the humor in classical music always gets short shrift. Most of the time because people take themselves so seriously that they don't get the joke. But these performers do. They play the music with such sly wit and joy and such a relish for the fabulous sonority that Beethoven gets from the piano and the violin in this coda. Listen to this. And then, last but certainly not least, we come to the Archduke trio. The Archduke, named after Archduke Rudolph, Beethoven's patron, to whom he dedicated many, many of his works. The Archduke is a glorious piece of music in Beethoven's grand heroic style. It's related in that sense to the Emperor Concerto, which was a few years earlier, but also, but also the opening theme is extremely similar to the opening theme of the first Razumovsky string quartet, that is the quartet number 7 in F major. And I want to play both of them next to each other because it shows you what Beethoven could do with two rather similar ideas. They have a family resemblance, but they're on a completely different scale. The Archduke is much, much broader in conception than the quartet, but the structure of the tune and even the shape of the melody is kind of similar. Here's the quartet with the Smetana Quartet. Yay! On Supraphon, fabulous performance. Here it is. Here's just the opening melody of the quartet. And here is its big brother in the Archduke trio. Hear the resemblance? There's that feeling of nobility and strength that really is one of Beethoven's specialties. And it doesn't have to be in a turbulent minor key. He was just as compelling when he was in happy keys. So anyway, that is the set, the Suk Trio, doing the Beethoven trios. Every sane human being who loves classical music should own this box. I'm not kidding. So keep on listening, folks. Make America classical again. Thank you for joining me. Get your Beethoven piano trios. Take care.